From being a treble winner to joining Everton.
Jack Grealish to Everton. Here we go.
From being a player worth £100 million to being worth half of that.
His form has absolutely fallen off a cliff. You look at those stats, and they're pretty embarrassing, aren't they, for a £100 million player?
From being considered one of the most exciting players in the Premier League.
For me, this kid's the most talented player we've seen since Gaza.
To becoming the poster boy for football becoming robotic. What the hell happened to Jack Grealish? When Grealish was signed for a record-breaking fee by Manchester City, it raised some eyebrows.
Stepping up and doing it for Aston Villa and then moving up a gear to Manchester City is a different ballgame. Let's not forget, he couldn't get in the England team. You got a £100 million player who can't get in the England team. I'm not so sure he's worth that.
City had just scored every other team in the Premier League in the 2021 season and already had the likes of Mahrez, Sterling, and Kevin De Bruyne in their attacking options. There were already questions about where Grealish would fit in before he had even played a single match. But you see, during that period, he was seen as this X-Factor type player. He was this maverick that could create something out of nothing. A player who just glided past defenders and had the individual quality that just got you out of your seat. Given how well he had played on a struggling Villa side, there was hope that with him surrounded by better players, he could hit another level. And the fact that Pep was his manager, it seemed like a recipe for success. Villa fans had been backing him for years, proud of this homegrown talent that had risen through the ranks. Grealish had joined the club as a 6-year-old. His journey began with endless motorway trips alongside his dad, Kevin, who often drove him to away games instead of letting him take the team bus. These rides became their routine, filled with father-son chat. Back then, Grealish was unknown. To get him a taste of first-team football, Villa sent him on loan to Notts County in League One. He couldn't drive yet, so once again his father was a chauffeur. Notts County were struggling near the bottom of the table, but for Grealish it was a chance to learn the men's game. His confidence was clear from day one. He wasn't the type to sit quietly. He made friends quickly within the team and caught the eye of everyone with his dribbling and flair. The physical side of the lower leagues hit him early. On his debut he was clattered within seconds, setting the tone for years of being targeted by defenders. But each time he was knocked down, he got back up. He played 40 games that season, scoring 5 and assisting 7. But more importantly, he lit up matches with moments of skill that showed he was a level above everyone else. Midway through the season, promotion-chasing clubs tried to lure him away. One of them was Birmingham City, but that was instantly rejected. Grealish chose loyalty over comfort, staying to help Notts County fight for survival. And the decision paid off. In what became one of the club's greatest escapes, he played a key role in winning 6 of the last 8 matches to keep them in League One. These months really shaped him. He learned the importance of tracking back, winning duels, being aggressive, learning more about football than just running at players and beating your man. After his loan spell at Notts County, Grealish came back to Aston Villa and finally made his senior debut on the 7th of May 2014, coming on late in a 4-0 loss to Manchester City. A few months later, he got his first start in a League Cup game against Leyton Orient, playing the full 90 minutes even though Villa lost 1-0. With his contract running down, Villa quickly moved to secure him, offering him a new 4-year deal in September of 2014, which he signed the following month. By early 2015, he was starting to get more minutes. In March, he came off the bench in an FA Cup win over West Brom, but got sent off late for diving. A few weeks later, he made his first Premier League start against QPR, really impressing the fans and pundits. His big moment came in the FA Cup semi-final against Liverpool, where he was involved in both goals, including setting up Fabian Delph's winner, the goal that ended up sending Villa to the final. He played the full match at Wembley in the final, but again, Aston Villa ended up losing, this time 4-0 to Arsenal. Off the pitch, Grealish was still learning what it means to be a professional. In April of 2015, photos emerged of him inhaling nitrous oxide, and the manager at the time, Tim Sherwood, wanted him to cut that behavior out. As we will see later in the video, moments like this weren't just tabloids trying to get clicks or news articles trying to farm engagement. His choices off the pitch, in his personal life, played a massive role in the fall-off that we saw on the pitch. In September of 2015, Grealish scored his first goal for Villa with a great strike against Leicester, but again, Villa still lost. Later that year, after a 4-0 defeat to Everton, he decided to stay up north and go clubbing instead of returning home. The new boss at the time, Remy Gard, was not impressed and actually sent him to train with the under-21s as punishment. He later rejoined the first team in December. That season was rough for everyone at Villa. They finished bottom of the league and were relegated, ending their long stay in the Premier League. For Grealish, it was a brutal start. He played 16 games that year, and all of them ended in defeat. It was a tough stretch, but also a period where he started learning the hard lessons about discipline, professionalism, and handling life as a top-level player. In September of 2016, trouble found him again. Reports came out that he had been at a party party in a Birmingham hotel that had to be shut down by police in the early hours. Villa opened an internal investigation, and the club's owner, Tony Shea, publicly warned him to focus both on and off the pitch and to surround himself with the right people. A month later, things got worse. He was suspended for 3 matches after accepting a charge of violent conduct for stamping on Connor Cody in a game against Wolves. Fast forward to July of 2017, and disaster struck, this time in preseason. In a friendly against Watford, Grealish went up for a challenge with Cleverley and took an elbow to the side. He was rushed to the hospital and needed surgery. It turned out he'd suffered a ruptured kidney, a serious life-threatening injury. He was out for 3 months, finally returning in November as a sub in a loss to Sheffield Wednesday. Looking back, Grealish admitted it was the scariest injury of his career. In 2018, Villa came close to returning to the Premier League, but lost to Fulham in the playoff final. That summer, with his contract running down, Tottenham came calling for Grealish. A move looked possible, but it fell through, and Grealish stayed put. In September, he committed his future to the club by signing a new 5-year deal, resting any rumors about him leaving. The 2018-2019 season became the season where Grealish really elevated his game to another level. In March, he was named captain, and something just clicked. Villa went on a crazy run, 10 straight wins, the most in the club's history at the time. But the defining moment came in the second city derby against bitter rivals, Birmingham City. Early in the game, a pitch invader ran on and punched Grealish from behind. But instead of losing his cool, he actually kept his focus. In the second half, he scored the winning goal, silencing the home crowd and sealing a 1-0 win. The attacker ended up being jailed for 14 weeks for that punch. Villa's incredible form carried them to the playoffs. They beat West Brom on penalties in the semis, then took down Derby County in the final. After 3 long years in the championship, Grealish had led his boyhood club back to the Premier League, and as a result, had grown from a talented but inconsistent winger into a true leader for Aston Villa. After the Claret and Blue returned to the Premier League, Grealish was officially named the club captain, a sign of just how much he had grown since his early years. It didn't take him long to make an impact. His first goal of the 2020 season came in August in an EFL Cup win over Crewe Alexandra. A couple of months later, he scored his first Premier League goal of the season in a 5-1 away win over Norwich City, a result that pulled Villa out of the relegation zone. Then came COVID, which basically halted the season in March of 2020. During the break, Grealish found himself in trouble again after breaking government lockdown rules. Imagine trying to lock down this guy during COVID. Bro cared more about getting ass than he did about getting the disease. He admitted he was wrong and was later fined by the club. When the season resumed, his influence on the pitch, well, it returned too. He was fouled a record-breaking 167 times, the most in a single Premier League campaign at the time. On the final day, he scored in a 1-1 draw with West Ham that secured Villa's survival. They were helped by Watford's loss to Arsenal. By season's end, fans and teammates voted him player of the season, and he finished as the club's top scorer with 10 goals in all competitions. In September of 2020, Grealish committed to Villa with a new 5-year contract. That season started in style. He scored in a win over Fulham and had one of the best performances of his career in a 7-2 demolition of the reigning champions Liverpool. He scored twice and set up 3 more in one of the biggest shocks in Premier League history. Then he followed that performance up with a dramatic 97th minute goal against Southampton, although in traditional fashion, Villa lost. Regardless, though, his transformation had been crazy. From 2019 to 2021, Grealish had gone from a talented academy product to the face and leader of Aston Villa. So when he made his £100 million move to Manchester City on the 5th of August 2021, it was supposed to be the moment he stepped into football's elite. City handed him a 6-year deal, the iconic number 10 shirt that was previously worn by Sergio Aguero, and the chance to play under Pep Guardiola in a team that was chasing every trophy. It was the most expensive transfer for an English player ever, the highest fee a British club had ever paid at that time. The stage couldn't have been bigger. He made his debut in a 1-0 loss to Tottenham, City losing to Tottenham, what else is new? Then he scored his first goal for City in a 5-0 win over Norwich, which happened just a couple of weeks later. He even marked his Champions League debut with a goal and an assist in a 6-3 win over RB Leipzig. But from the very start, there were signs that Grealish wasn't taking this new chapter of his career as seriously as he should have. Old patterns were still there, and the same issues we'd seen creep into his career back at Villa. By December of 2021, which was only a few months into his City career, Grealish and Foden were dropped from the squad for a match against Newcastle after being spotted on a night out at a nightclub. It was a reminder that while his talent was unquestionable, the question marks around his professionalism, the same ones that followed him at Villa, hadn't gone away. To make matters worse, Grealish's first season at Manchester City didn't set the world on fire. Just 3 goals and 3 assists in 26 league games wasn't what people expected from a £100 million signing. At Villa, he had the freedom to drift wherever he wanted, to look for weaknesses in the opposition and just make anything he wanted happen. At City, City under Pep though, it was the complete opposite. Pep wanted his wingers to stay high and wide, to stretch the defense, and trust that the ball will eventually come their way. For a player like Grealish, who was a maverick, who was used to roaming and running the show, this was a big change. Pep kept telling everyone, and Grealish himself, not to judge him by goals and assists. He wanted him judged by the work he did off the ball, the way he created space for others, and how he helped the team both in the attack and defense. It took some time for Grealish to buy in, but in his second season, things really started to click. He stayed disciplined, hugged the left touchline like it was a stripper, and carried the ball up the pitch. And as a result, he was able to drag defenders out of position. City started to attack more down his side because they trusted him to make something happen, either by beating his man, winning a foul, or finding a teammate. The results followed. He was more involved in goals, he scored some big ones like against Arsenal, and put in some standout performances, like the performance against Liverpool where he scored and assisted, and then even made a key defensive run to stop a goal on the other end. His dribbling and ball carrying became a real weapon. Only one City player had carried the ball more often, and nobody had carried it further than him. He was constantly pulling defenders out of place, creating openings for his teammates, and even winning the fouls that led to red cards for players like Nathan Collins and Romero. Without an overlapping fullback like he had at Villa, he had to take on more one-on-one situations, and he actually thrived in them. By that point, Grealish wasn't just chipping in with goals and assists. He was a very important cog in Pep's machine, and finally, people were starting to see why Pep had been so patient with him. The 2022-2023 season was easily Grealish's best season in a City shirt. He kicked things off with a goal just 55 seconds into a win over Wolves in September, then kept delivering in the big moments. He scored the opener in the Manchester derby in January, bagged another in a crucial win over Arsenal in February to put City at the top of the league, and then he set up Mahrez's goal against RB Leipzig in the Champions League. By April, his monster performances continued, especially in the Champions League, where he became a creative machine. He created 35 chances in the competition, the most ever by an English player in a single season. In the semi-final against Real Madrid, he was everywhere, helping City dominate the second leg 4-0. And then by May, the silverware started rolling in. He won his second Premier League title, lifted the FA Cup after beating Manchester United, and then even started in the Champions League final against Inter Milan as City completed the treble, their first in history.
So happy, man.
What followed was peak Grealish. Days of partying, showing up to the parade in full kit, clearly running on pure adrenaline, and maybe a bit of champagne. In my opinion, City don't win the treble without Jack Grealish. Now a lot of you will say, oh, you can just put anyone you want on that left wing and they would have won it based on how good their team was. But that's not true. They used a bunch of different left wingers over the years, and they didn't get over the hump until it was Grealish starting in that position. Grealish brought something different, the ability to slow the game down, recycle possession, and draw defenders in. That gave City a level of control they simply didn't have before. Was it the flashy goals and assist output that you expect from a £100 million signing? No, but honestly, just by helping City win everything that season, it probably justified the price tag on its own. But from that moment on, it was nothing but a steep fall off for Jackie Boy. At one point, he went over a year without scoring for City, and in his last 53 games across all competitions, he only managed 3 goals and 5 assists. For a winger in a team that dominates almost every game, those are pretty terrible numbers. They are Garnacho level statistics. And the thing is, it's not just about the stats. He had very little impact. He was hardly playing. Since the start of the 2024 season, he only started 9 of City's 39 Premier League matches. Yes, injuries played a part in that, but Pep had also left him on the bench a lot, and when he did came on, it was usually late in the game for just a handful of minutes. Pep even said straight up that 20-year-old Savinho was getting picked ahead of him because he was in better shape at that time. It's never a good sign when your manager publicly states that you're not meeting the standards both in training and in matches. The signs were there early, to be honest. After the treble, Grealish admitted that once you've done it all, there's a feeling of what now? And if you remember, no one partied harder than him after that season. He was the face of the celebrations for days. It was great fun for the fans, but when the next season came around, the dude looked like he was still hungover. Behind the scenes, Pep was warning him about training harder and playing with more intensity. Then in May of 2024, after a short break before the title run-in, he came back from the days off in such poor shape that Pep dropped him completely for the next game. He didn't play another minute that season, not even in the FA Cup final. Off the pitch, the past few years haven't been easy on him either. There was a break-in at his home in late 2023, injuries have kept disrupting his rhythm, he missed out on England's Euro 2024 squad, and he became a dad for the first time. All massive life events, some tough, some amazing, but they can all throw your routines and focus off balance. The problem is that Pep's system has no room for passengers. At Villa, Grealish was the star. He had the ball all the time, he took risks, he played with total freedom. At City, Pep still valued his ability to slow the game down, keep possession and draw defenders in, but he had to back that up with intensity and end product. In the 2023 season, he had found the perfect balance. He was controlling games and still creating and scoring, but since then, the control had only been there in patches. The spark and decisiveness that he had gone missing. People say that Pep made him robotic, but that's not true. Pep made him play safe because his maverick style didn't translate to winning football. Sure, it looks good when you're playing for Villa, who are just trying to stay above relegation, but when you're playing for a team that's trying to compete for every single trophy, that style of play just doesn't work. Now, with Pep bringing in new players and City's attack evolving again, it came as no surprise that Grealish was sent out on loan to Everton. For Grealish, to be honest, this is a huge moment. In the 2025 season, the guy barely touched grass. Just 16 starts in all competitions, only 7 in the league, and he didn't even make the squad for their final game of the season or for the Club World Cup trip to the US. Pep had moved on to other options like Foden, Doku, Savinho, and Marmoush. This move is Grealish's chance to reset, to get back to playing every week, and to prove he's still got the quality that made him a £100 million signing. If he's got any hopes of making the England squad for the World Cup in the summer, this is the platform he needs. For Everton, it's massive too. They've got one of the best defenses in the league, but have lacked that game-changing spark going forward. Grealish, at his best, can be that guy, the player who controls the tempo, beats his man, and creates chances when nothing's on. He's expected to be David Moyes' main man, playing either off the left or playing as the number 10, the guy pulling the strings. That creative player is in there somewhere, and now on a new team with more freedom and lower expectations, we might see the same Grealish that we saw in his last few years at Villa. There is risk in this move. He's on big wages, and Everton are reportedly covering a large chunk of that. If he plays like he did in the treble season, it's a bargain. If not, it's a pretty expensive gamble, but the club's new owners are clearly ready to back the team. The years of penny pinching at Everton look to be over. What comes next? Very simple. Grealish has to embrace being that guy again. No more being a role player in Pep's machine. At Everton, he'll be the focal point, the one fans look to every time they're chasing a goal. If he delivers, this could be the move that reignites his career and makes him a hero at Merseyside. If he doesn't, the questions about his consistency and hunger will only get louder. Now, Grealish isn't the only English City player who had an up and down career. Foden has been through something similar. To see what happened to him, you have to check out this video right here.